Hello and welcome to Virtual Concert Hall's live music channel. My name is Chris Au and I'll be your host for today's show. Today's program is quite an inspiring one. We are going back in time to have a look at some very valuable advice from our judges back in 2021. We discuss how to stand out as an artist, as a competitor, as a musician, perhaps how to prepare so you can best showcase your own talents and what you have to offer in a competition. We'll discuss the nature of competitions and the journey of becoming a musician, playing many different instruments, and gaining wisdom from experienced and wise musicians who have done all this before. And all of this is to serve you, musicians, and young performers out there by giving you valuable insights into this music world out there. This is because it is our passion to be connecting musicians and audiences in real-time musical performances and live programs from around the globe. Hello and welcome to Virtual Concert Hall's live music channel. Today's show is going to be very exciting as we look back on a show we did back in 2021 where judges Angela Chan and Annie Chang-Center discussed how to become a really good competitor, how to stand out as a competitor and as a musician in today's world. We have an incredible season, 2023 to 2024, with 4 different Carnegie Hall live gala events. We have 4 different orchestras and ensembles for competitors to play with as a soloist with orchestra, and we just have an incredible season ahead, which I would love for you to be a part of. We have an extended deadline of October 15th to get all your applications in. So if you're a young performer, young musician, or a musician of all different backgrounds, or you're a composer, soloist, duo, ensemble, we welcome everybody. Today I have the privilege of reviewing some valuable advice that judges gave to competitors at a judging panel 2 years ago. But first, let's take a look at what we have in store for this coming season. So as you can see, we have an incredible season up ahead. And the music you just heard was by Alla Lowry, our composer in residence. If you're a composer out there looking for opportunities for your music to be performed, we have a call for scores for composers to submit their scores so young musicians can perform them in one of the most prestigious venues in the world, Carnegie Hall. We have a really exciting season up ahead, and so I really encourage you to apply and check out our website at soundexpressivacompetitions.com. We also are leading up to these season's performances. We're doing a show at 12 noon every single day in order to showcase what we have to offer, as well as talk to guest artists, judges, performers, young musicians, and music promoters, and all different parts of not just our organization, but organizations of collaborators and musicians out there who are invested into our competition and season up ahead. I'm going to introduce to you, everyone watching, and what we have for today, which is a reviewing of 2 judges, Angela Chan and Annie Chang-Center. And I want to introduce them very briefly before we show a clip of what they have to say to young musicians. Dr. Angela Chan is a renowned pianist and pedagogue. Dr. Chan is also the author of new Lambda piano method series developed to help pianists progress at an accelerated rate. Dr. Chan's book, A Guide to Musicality, the art and science on her research and experiences with innovative pedagogical approaches has also been released in July 2020. Recognized internationally as an outstanding pedagogue, Dr. Chan has been invited to adjudicate a number of major competitions in Canada, China, Europe, and in the US, including the Sound Espressivo competition. Our second judge, who is another fantastic pianist, but also a violist, has garnered many awards for both instruments. Her name is Annie Chang-Center. When living in Arizona, she was the assistant principal violist of the Phoenix Symphony, the principal violist of the Phoenix Symphony Sinfonietta, and the Arizona Chamber Orchestra, for which she performed regularly as a viola soloist. She was also the pianist of the Concordia Trio with cellist Michael Center and violinist Dana Pasley. Currently, Annie plays in the Baltimore Chamber Orchestra and serves as an art administrator and much more. So I'm going to show you a clip of Dr. Angela Chan talking about showmanship and artistry, because we host live auditions, and part of that is you having the freedom as a competitor to showcase whatever you want. There is no time limit for all our auditions, and live auditions mean that the feedback from judges are immediate. The judges are watching, you have a live audience in front of you watching online on our broadcasts, and you get freedom to do whatever you want repertoire-wise, as well as how to present. So we discussed this, and I hope you enjoy this clip. Angela, I want to see if you can give some practical notes on what it means to, of course, put on a show or be entertaining or special. I think these are very ethereal words, and I think maybe a practical approach is really necessary.
Right. I think one wowing factor and also a good way to train ourselves is to push the envelope. To push the envelope of what you believe you're capable of delivering. Whether it's this pianist or another pianist, we got that wow factor because we feel that the elements of the human potential has been tested and they are successful in it. We can test it in many different ways by extending this envelope, and we all bring in our own personal signature, who we are as a defining characteristic to the music. But one very important element is, as a musician, we practice day in, day out. We're in this humdrum. What's important is to keep this fresh in our minds. Fresh that every time when we try to speak through this music, it has to remain a certain value that we feel is constantly developing inside, so that it doesn't go just like a pure recitation, where with more practice, it loses its meaning to you. Then what can you express? So it's very important to keep that spark, always continuously find in the music, seek inspiration. You can listen to even YouTube, listen to recordings, continuously discover what's in the music that makes it, revives it, gives it a sparkle, so that every time when you practice, there's a reason behind it. It's not just to make it better, but to push your own envelope, to develop and really bring justice to these magnus opus, to share it with the audience and the judges.
Incredibly inspiring advice from Dr. Angela Chan, and to summarize what she said, it is to push the envelope of what you're able to develop as an artist by looking into the music and challenging yourself. And we will talk a lot about how to do that. Annie Chang-Center also discusses how to find inspiration, which is going to be a really amazing clip coming up. I love what Dr. Angela Chan says, which is, we want to explore our identity and ways to keep the music fresh in our minds. Because if we're performing a lot of these pieces of music and practicing them, it could start to become stale in our minds. But there are many different ways to do that. And if you can keep that fresh in your mind, then as you're performing, it becomes something that lives and breathes. And I really love what she said. And we're going to listen to another clip where she talks about, along with Annie Chan, how to find inspiration. Enjoy. It's important that we talk about pushing the envelope, but what does it mean? Apart from listening to recordings of other pianists play, let's say a piece by Chopin, what are other ways do you feel? And I'll bring this, to everybody to answer. that they can continue to make this fresh? How do you find inspiration? Because I personally don't think it's just at the piano. You can watch movies, go to art galleries, and incorporate examples from all over the place to really inspire you. What are your thoughts on that?
I think there are two aspects, a general one and a more concrete one. General one is enrich your knowledge of everything so that you can make connections with the music, so that you as a person develop more fully, so you have content, you have correlations, so that out of music is just a tip of the iceberg where you express yourself,
I
but
like
you
that.
have a wide knowledge base so that you have things to speak, you have things
Yeah.
to talk about. But then in order to do that, I think you can do two things. First, self-critique. After, don't just practice for repetition, but critique yourself. What's the problem? How can I make it better? And
Yeah.
also play for your fellow people, like not just your teacher. You've gotten enough feedback from your teacher, but from people that would listen to you and not just critique on you, but on a collegial basis. It may be your classmates, maybe your musical friends, because they are not looking at you from high above. They are at your level. And there is a level of sharing and mutual understanding. When you are able to learn from your peers, you're also able to learn better from your professors.
Wow, that's excellent advice. Annie, do you have anything to say about that? That's remarkable advice. Thank you, Dr. Angela.
My pleasure.
I want to add to that experimentation is a really good thing to do to keep things fresh. So when we look at standard repertoire, there are typical ways that everybody does in terms of interpretation. And I think it's really important to sometimes kind of take things apart a little bit and change things up a little bit. So, for instance, in terms of pacing, if everybody does the same guitar somewhere, try something a little bit different. Try different tone colors. If you have multiple voices, try rebalancing your voice. So instead of always doing bring out the bass and the top, change up with bring out the inner voice, can feel, change the texture of the music. So I think there are a lot of ways to keep things fresh and just by experimenting and not be afraid to try different things. I think that sometimes can help.
Wow, really amazing advice from both Dr. Angela Chan and Annie Chang-Center. The topic really was how to stand out as a competitor and as a musician. And these judges actually gave a lot of insights to stand out, not in terms of showmanship or ways to dress, but how to find inspiration within the music, how to become a better musician and a person who has enriched experiences so you can express yourself. And that is how you can stand out. Dr. Andrew Chen also talks about self critique and playing for colleagues. And that doesn't only just improve you as a musician and as an instrumentalist or as a vocalist, but it also gives you a chance to be honest with yourself and honest with and sincere with your colleagues. And what that does, it helps you figure out who you are and what kind of thing you want to say at your instrument. And I find that really intriguing. The other thing that they also mentioned was experimentation. And that gives a fresh approach to the music, but also a way to hear it in different ways so that there are other possibilities. Because as a lot of musicians do, they play from a score. And this score that, you've looked at and breathed in and nurtured for all this time can start to become stale if you don't experiment and see what the composer really is trying to say. So I really love that kind of advice. And this is musical advice, this is artistic advice in order for you to become the best performer you can be. We have a really exciting season coming up, and I'll take this time to declare that we have an extended deadline. We have an extended deadline of October 15th for you to get all your applications in. We have four incredible Carnegie Hall events and one that is coming up towards the end and middle of November. And so if you would like to perform this 2023 season in Carnegie Hall, there's no better opportunity than to apply. Check out our website at soundexpressivocompetition.com, or you can also go to progressivemusicians.com to check out what else there is to offer. I can't express to you how much of a privilege it is for us to be able to have this venue to offer competitors, but also for us to hear you as a musician. We have live auditions at the end of this month, and we will then hopefully come up with some amazing prize winners who will perform at Carnegie Hall. The next clip that I want to talk to you about or show you is more of a perspective of what it means to be a judge today. And both Angela Chan and Annie Chang-Center talk about what they're looking for. So as you're preparing for competitions out there, you can really see what judges are looking for, listening for, and taking notice of. So that it's not just simply about playing all the right notes, but you can hear that there's things like an engaging personality or something different, try a different voice or a kind of repertoire or program. So I'm going to show you this clip and then we'll talk a little bit about it afterwards. Is a major part of judging these days that is different, especially now that we're all online. What does it mean for you to be a judge now? Does it mean, and we get some criticism, or not criticism, but a suggestion that, maybe judging is a very harsh word, as though we're putting some judgment onto competitors or something of that sort. But we have to label things. We have to say, either this is better than the other. We have to say perhaps that we enjoyed this performance more than a different performance, or that this was more technically proficient than the other. Do you have any thoughts on what it means to be a judge now? I'll have Dr. Angela start, if that's all right.
Okay, sure. Yes. Now, as a judge, I've adjudicated a lot of competitions, many of which were live, and then during this pandemic period, it became virtual. Specifically to this one that we're talking about, this virtual competition, I love it personally because it balances the video element as well as the live aspect. So I think I would use different parameters to judge each one. In terms of the video, first I would dismiss the recording quality, because we are not in the same playing field. Some may be recording with an iPhone, and some may be doing it in a recording studio. But I think that has no bearing on the actual performance. I would try to siphon out all the other extraneous noises and really truly listen to the performer per se. And if it is a solo, I think I would personally focus on the rapport between the performer and me as a listener, to see if he or she is really bringing forth from his heart that particular message that's very dear to him. And if it is in an ensemble, I would also judge based on the interaction between this performer with maybe the collaborative musicians around, or as an ensemble. So I have to be very careful to see who I am there to judge. Is it to judge the ensemble? Or if sometimes I have the experience of a very outstanding performer, but unfortunately the collaborative performer is not very experienced. So I wouldn't take that into account. I have to be very careful to siphon that out. Now, then when we go to the actual performance, I would treat it as a live competition. And for that, I would listen for that engaging personality, almost like a live platform. Is there the spark? Is there that engagement? And I look for that, assuming that all the technical elements are in place. But if, of course, some may not be, well, then I'll judge accordingly. Another thing I would really take into account, hopefully, is to see the age and the experience. Because if you see someone who is very young, and well, the kid is 5 years old, how many years could that child would have learned the piano? That I would have to judge it according to what is the expectation of such an age. So I would factor in a number of multiples just to make sure that is on a level playing field for everyone, so that is a meaningful participation.
No, really. Thank you for that in-depth and detailed answer. I think it's important that all these elements are accounted for, and it makes it being a judge quite difficult because you're thinking and analyzing, as well as trying to enjoy the music as well. Of course, you've been a Dr. Andrew Chan was asked, what does it mean to be a judge today? And more specifically, in live auditions online. So during the pandemic, we hosted competitions, but live, but all online. And we have a tech crew who is amazing, and they all make sure that everyone sounds as good as they can. She mentioned that maybe this person's playing from an iPhone. We make sure that whatever you're broadcasting from, hopefully, and ideally a laptop or a computer, that with a microphone and a good webcam, that you sound and look the best that you can. We have an incredible crew who makes sure that happens, and then we can really hear that engaging personality that Dr. Andrew Chan and all these other judges are really looking for. They're looking for an engaging personality, rapport between the performer and the audience. And what I love about this competition, and when I was one of the competitors in the Sound Expressivo competition in 2020, was that they allowed me to speak a little bit before I played each piece and to talk about what it means to me or certain musical elements. And I thought of it not as just performing for the judges, but also for an audience who are watching online. And what's really amazing about that is that that was sort of the seed for me to start this exploring what it means to talk to an audience during a performance, and to have certain ways in which I would address the piece and talk engagingly, but then also to adjust my mindset to then perform the piece in a way that's also engaging, but in a different way. And so what ends up happening is that you start to explore what you're able to produce and to showcase, whether it is repertoire, whether it is the kind of program you want to produce, whether it's kind of the pieces or the way you produce it. Maybe it's the different technology you use to produce that piece and to play, or it's simply a way of speaking to engage an audience. We allow for all of that, and it's really comforting to realize that the judges are also looking for something different, something where they can feel a connection between the audience or themselves and the performer. I want to show you the next clip because this next clip talks about how to stand out as a competitor. And as a competitor, you need to stand out in many ways with programming or perhaps or other ways. You could look a certain way, or the way that it all sounds, or way you address the instrument or the piece itself. But what about preparation? What about preparing in a way that stands out so you seem calm and collected and nothing phases you? So we will talk a little bit about that, and I can't wait for you to watch this clip and we'll talk about it afterwards.
Teach my students that performance, or playing an instrument for that matter, is a discipline. A discipline means that it requires constant commitment and a level of seriousness in what you put into. And after that, you reap what you sow. And accordingly, when they put their discipline, they grow and become stronger. They do not give up because of outside obstacles. They stick to the commitment. And also, when there is that self-involvement, they will continue to grow and be better. So it's very important. That's the first thing. Without that, nothing can be born out of it. With the discipline, you're going to emerge and continue to grow. The next thing is, earlier I said, you need to expand your boundaries. But by expanding that, you have to be really prepared. Now, my teacher's teacher, one of my teachers, her name is Nancy Liu from Hong Kong. And her teacher was Adele Marcus from Juilliard. She told me the story about when she was young and she went to Juilliard. And it was on a cold morning where her teacher asked her to go for her lesson at 6 a.m. So she had to take the metro and go through all that. When she got back to Juilliard, her hands were frozen, completely frozen. And her teacher asked her to play immediately, no warming up. And she managed. And the teacher, Adele Marcus, said, I want you to be 500% prepared so that in the worst of circumstances, you're still able to deliver. It's not that you have to be in prime state. You work in that, but you have the best reserve. You're training for that. That's why I'm saying it's a discipline. If you're 500% prepared, even at tremendous degradation, you're down to 100%, where generally the norm expects that as perfection. So you can always deliver by being overly prepared. So chance favors the prepared mind. You always get a lot more ready, and that's part of the discipline and also part of the professional ethics that I instill in the students. It's not just learning for the sake of just having fun alone. You get the fun, you get the achievement and the glory after that when you can over prepare and deliver no matter what. So I make sure that I instill this value in my students. And the second part is that, well, I understand that you want to win in a competition, and having that gung-ho attitude is good. But in case you win, keep yourself in check. It doesn't mean that it's glorious, then now you can be full of yourself, because that is the next challenge. When you are acknowledged and you don't get out of yourself feeling that you're big, you're no longer maintaining the humility to carry on. This could be your demise. So I keep them in check. So that's what I do to my students.
It sounds like you're an incredible teacher, but also a coach. I see this a lot of in the sports disciplines, that you over prepare, you go through all different kinds of training to make sure that on the actual competition day you can perform, and it's difficult and it's pressured, but you know you can manage it. And I think this is something, wow, it's really good advice. Thank you for that, Dr. Angela.
Thank you.
Annie, do you have anything that you'd like to say about preparing teachers and what would you say to teachers who might be preparing their students? Myself, I'm a teacher too, but I'm not nearly as experienced as any of you. So what would you say to people like this?
Well, first, we have to think about the physical part of things, the intellectual part of learning music, and the mental part of learning music and performing, preparing to perform or to compete. Practicing mindfully is very important. A lot of students, when they first learn anything, or once they have learned the notes, it's very easy for them just kind of go into the automatic pilot, just run things, mindlessly. And I think that's when a teacher can step in and say, okay, let's take a step back. Are you fixing anything as you were playing through? Are you understanding the music? Did you study the score? What does this mean? Do you know the historical background of the piece? What do you think the composer would do if he or she were playing this music? I think to shift the way a student think and connect with music and the way they play can change their overall playing in the preparation. And another really important thing is consistency. And there are many ways of preparing for that. One is, I find visualization actually very helpful. So it's very beneficial for students to practice, actually run through a whole program just in their mind. I don't know if students or performers, I believe a lot of performers do that, because you have to have a very clear mental image of what it's going to be like when you're on stage, what it's going to be like while you're going through this musical journey where you're playing the program. What is that sensation like? What's going on, with your fingers? How is that going to work with a particular shift for a string player or a run for a pianist, that kind of thing. I find that kind of thinking repetition very helpful, actually, with very difficult spots. So there are times if my students are struggling with one particular technical thing, I would just tell them, put the instrument away, close your eyes, visualize how you would do it, how you would do that jump or how you would do that shift. And a lot of times when they come back to the instruments, they can do it. Yeah. So much of it is amazing up here. And it's also creating a zone. The athletes talk about that all the time. If it takes practice to figure out how to do that, how to create a zone. that nothing can disturb you. So to have that is going to help you to be consistent, because you're not going to be affected by what's going to happen around you. Because a lot of things happen when you have to, right before you play or, perform or compete. A lot of things can happen. And if you can just keep yourself in that zone, then you can handle anything. And one more thing I want to talk about in terms of being consistent is, this might sound a little cruel, but I actually went through it myself, I did it myself, is getting up at any time and run the hardest thing, that you have to play. Or even if you're sick, you're not feeling well, you don't feel like playing, just make yourself get up and do it. And if you can still play at a certain level when you're feeling terrible, then you're going to play that much better in a normal situation. So that's my advice.
That's such good advice. There you have it. I mean, it's incredible how we got these judges to give such incredible advice for preparation for a competition, preparation for a concert. And to summarize, Dr. Andrew Chan talks about how Chan prefers the prepared mind. And not just a prepared mind, but a prepared body. And she shares a story about how if you can perform and play cold and at 6 a.m., then you have a much higher chance of being able to perform that same piece in a different situation where you do feel somewhat of the same pressures. And and then Annie Chang-Center talks about how practicing mindfully really helps. It's all in the mind, it seems. And so the better you can experiment with how to prepare, how to give yourself the best chance to play the best you can. And that takes a lot of different situations and experimentation. If you're just practicing mindlessly, if you're not even concentrating when you're practicing, if you're not doing run-throughs for your friends and for teachers and for other colleagues, if you're not waking up at certain different times in the day and then playing cold, if you're not giving yourself sort of ways to challenge that preparation, then you're not going to be able to test it. And if it's not tested, then during a really high pressure situation, you may not feel as confident, and that will definitely affect the way you perform. So for all competitors out there, we are welcoming you to be a part of our 2023 and 2024 season. We have 4 different Carnegie Hall dates. We have live auditions coming up at the end of October. And what that means essentially is that we are really getting ready to have you be a part of the performance on stage, as you can see right now. This is a very exciting time because we're calling for competitors and musicians, composers, vocalists, and ensembles to be a part of our upcoming season galas. And so we are providing you with different shows on at 12 noon every single day, Eastern Standard Time. And today's show is about how to stand out. And you can stand out by being a really developed artist with very enriched experiences. You can stand out by having the best preparation possible. And I honestly think that's probably the key to the success that a musician may have, the preparation in which they have to be able to play at any time, to be able to perform really well and confidently in different scenarios and situations, and different, perhaps for pianists, different instruments that they may be given, and in different stages where the acoustics and different things and different variables may come into jeopardy if you're not prepared well. So we're giving you tools to help you as a musician to be as well prepared as possible, not just for the competitions we have ahead, but for the real world. We are meeting at 12 noon every single day to talk about different elements of the music world. Recently, we had Nathan Chung, who talked about being a pianist, composer. We had different people talk about connections, social networking, and how that all works together. We had a social media influencer talk about what it takes to develop a career through social media. And speaking of social media, we are all over social media. We are on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, Instagram, Twitch, and Twitter, or as it's known now, X. We welcome everyone to be a part of our upcoming season, and we can't wait to have you on our show. I'm going to show you a brief clip of what we have to offer, and it's a reel we made, and I hope you enjoy. Hey, check this out. I know you have always dreamed of performing in Carnegie Hall. So I think this 2023 to 2024 season at Sound Espressivo will be perfect for you. As a platform, we host live online auditions so you can share your music with the entire world. Then we send you to incredible in-person venues like Carnegie Hall so you can perform solo, as a duo, as an ensemble, and with orchestra. This year we have a total of 4 gala events at Carnegie Hall, as well as 4 different opportunities to perform with orchestras in the US, in the Czech Republic, and even in Egypt. We want to help you fulfill your musical dreams. Go to soundespressivocompetition.com to check out our season and to apply. Hey. And well, what are you what are you waiting for? So this is the chance to apply and be a part of our upcoming season. I want to thank our collaborators and sponsors, important organizations who make all of this happen for all of our competitors. And you can see on the screen the amazing plethora of different organizations who are not just supporting us, but also offering musicians a chance to perform, to be out there, and to be connected with a big music world that's not just in the US, but also all over the world, in Europe and Asia and beyond. We have an incredible team who provides us support, but also makes all this happen. Scriptwriters, hosts, producers, directors, everyone who is behind the scenes making these shows happen, and also making sure that our upcoming season is as smooth and amazing as possible. And that includes all the production of your sound checks and production of the shows that we do. So if you're a judge, if you're a teacher, musician, artist, we'd recommend that you join us, be a part of our upcoming season, and this is going to be really useful and really amazing. Thank you, Georgia, for your amazing comments, and we hope that you will be part of our upcoming season as well. Thank you for being a part of the show, and we are back on at 12 noon every single day, so we look forward to having you back soon. Take care and see you soon.